everyone, this is Rosanne versus Kaustav, played on the 13th of October, round 1. Let's get into it. Rosanne with white, here we go. French defense. Okay, advanced variation of the French. Knight f3. I mean, knight f3 is playable, but I really believe white should be playing c3 here. And the idea is that when black takes a pawn, you take back with a pawn. The main issue here is keeping your advanced center pawn on e5 well guarded by another pawn. When you play knight f3 instead, you leave black the option of just taking your pawn, and then when you take back with a knight, you don't have that extra support of the e5 pawn. They can play knight c6 straight away, and it's a bit annoying. I mean, if you take, they end up with quite nice center. Once they play e5, black's achieved his opening objectives. By playing with the pawn, playing c3, it's much, I think it's just much better. Okay, black didn't take it though. Black played knight c6, which gives white the opportunity to play c3 and transpose back into the main line of the advanced French, where black plays queen b6 and has, not a lot of pressure on the d4 pawn, and white's got a few opening problems to solve. But that's not what happened. White played knight c3. The knight does not belong on this square, I don't believe at all. I mean, firstly, it allows doesn't black just win a pawn? I mean, you just take this pawn here, and if white tries to take it back, then black just grabs this pawn here, and black's just won a pawn. So after takes, white's going to have to play a move like knight b5 or something to try and take back with the knight. Either way, black should be very happy. This pawn here is a bit weak because it's not defended by another pawn, and black has really nice play down the half open c file for most of the game to come, pretty much. So even though I think after knight b5, white will win their pawn back eventually. 1, 2, 3 attackers. So a move like bishop c5 doesn't really save it. I think you can still take it, can't you? Yeah. But yeah, knight c3 is no good. Black should just take the pawn. I mean, black didn't take the pawn. Black played bishop d7. Yeah, don't like this move, I'm afraid. I think missing the opportunity to just take this pawn and succeed with all your opening wishes. Bishop d7 is, don't like it. I think it lets white off the hook to some extent. White can now play a move like knight e2 and kind of hold the position together. The idea is, if black takes, you take back with a knight, and you can play c3 and try and keep a knight sitting on d4 for most of the game. Okay, so bishop d7, bishop g5 was played. I can't say I like this move. I think you're no longer defending this b2 pawn. It allows the queen to jump out to here and hit the b2 pawn and put even more pressure on d4. And that's exactly what happened. Instead of bishop g5, I think knight e2 needs to be played. Okay, where are we? Bishop g5, queen b6. This is just a pain. How do you defend everything? 1, 2, 3 attackers, only 2 defenders, 1 attacker on here. I'm going to use the engine to work this one out. Oh, the engine's suggesting just takes, but yuck, that does not look too good either. Takes and then like throwing the queen into d2, which defends the f2 pawn from this queen and bishop battery along here. And if this pawn gets taken, you've always got rook b1, and you can get your pawn back by grabbing the b7 pawn, because from d2 the queen defends the knight. But it's still a bit icky. You don't want to get into this position, but much better than rook b1, which was played, and that just throws away. I think it throws away a lot of material. Just takes here, and how does white handle this? White obviously can't take the pawn back. White's going to have to move this knight somewhere, and b5 maybe. 1, 2, 3 attackers, 2 defenders? Possibly. Another reason why this bishop doesn't want to be here is because it allows f6. Black's got a huge mass of pawns in the center of the board. After takes, the bishop is under attack, and after the bishop moves, you can then play e5. Look at those center pawns; they're just terrifying. So after c takes, white played knight takes. No, that just throws away a whole piece. Just free piece. Taking with the knight, taking with the queen. Kind of like taking with the queen, because you're basically trying to swap queens off, and at the same time you're threatening to just take the e-pawn. Pretty much forces a swap off of queens, and now the knight's threatening to take on c2, and yeah, loving black's position. Just an easy win for black. He's a piece up, and this pawn here is a little bit uncomfortable. He took with a knight, which gives white a bit of counterplay. You know, white can immediately pin the knight to the queen. In fact, that's exactly what happened. And black has to find some careful moves to play the, to get out of this situation. However, he does seem to have a clearance idea. This knight can clear out of the way of this pawn, allowing the pawn fork. So a move like knight takes c2, queen takes c2, and then d4. You sack the piece for a pawn, and then you get your piece back again. Is a possibility. Also, just bishop c5, which was played. The danger of playing this is that because the queen and bishop are both needed to defend the knight, there's a worry that there might be a some sort of deflection sacrifice here. A move like b4 to bring the bishop or the queen, or bring the bishop off there anyway, allowing something to be taken here. Yeah, I mean, b4, it's got to be the move. And the idea is if the bishop takes, then this bishop takes here, and white is, I think, hanging in there. Probably still losing, but because of moves like queen a5, but white's got chances. Instead, white did not play that. White played b3. Yeah, I mean, all the other moves that white's played up until this point, I understand why she's played them. They've all made sense. They might not have been, some of them might not have been good moves, but at least there were good reasons for playing the moves. This move b3, I don't actually understand the reason behind this move. It's the first move white's played where it doesn't seem to have a purpose. What it does is it actually weakens white's position greatly. Here with the pawn defending the knight, white's kind of hanging in there. White's lost a piece, but has some pin stuff going on here. A move like a3 maybe, with the idea of b4 to deflect the bishop away so you can get your piece back. That all makes sense to me. But yeah, b3 doesn't seem to make any sense. All it does is weaken these white squares. In particular, this knight is now looking like it's in big trouble. And in fact, black picked up on this idea and immediately played bishop b4, which to me looks like a blunder, because of simply queen takes knight. Not queen takes knight. Bishop takes knight. Just takes the piece back, defends the knight, and attacks the queen, all with the same move. So yeah, here surely black has got a lot of options available to him. Just simply retreat the knight back to f5, or not back to f5, but to retreat it to f5, and forcing a swap off of bishops, and then black is just a piece up, nice and safe. This just lets white get the piece back, and now things are very tricky. A move like queen d3 maybe, and I think white's going to lose this knight purely to the pin pylon, queen, bishop, rook, everything piling up on that knight. White's forced to play king d2 to defend it, and you can't help but feel this knight is going to fall, and white can't really unravel this. This is just, particularly because of this b3 move, it's just caused a situation where black can just throw away that piece in the center and still win the piece back because of all the weak dark squares and the inability to save this knight. Okay, but white actually missed that and played queen d2. So should have taken the piece back and made it a bit harder for black, but instead just queen d2. Yeah, and that runs into a few issues here, I think. What's the best way to play? Bishop c5 might be the best move, just going straight back again after the mistake made by bishop b4. I mean, what are some other options? Things like rook c8, so that after bishop d4 you can sack your queen, and then get your queen back at the end, and you still end up a piece up. So, you know, you can sort of see the horrible weaknesses created by this b3 move has really left black with a lot of tactical options. Even just throwing away a knight and then sacking the queen is still fine because of the weaknesses. Okay, what actually happened? Queen d2, queen a5 was played. Yeah, that should still be winning for black, because after the bishop takes on d4, you've got rook c8, and this knight's going to fall, and you're going to get your piece back. Well, you're going to remain a piece up. White just got her piece back, and now black's going to get an extra piece on top of it. So queen d3 was played. Was there any other option here? I mean, you could do an interference thing and chuck the bishop in the way of the rook, and try and keep the position together that way. And, you know, at least you get rid of black's center pawn this way. So, like, what I mean is something like this, and then maybe you can just castle. Even that looks a bit dicey. Well, the idea is if the pawn takes here, you take back with the rook, and the rook keeps everything defended. Yeah, that's hard to find, and yeah, you can't really blame white for deciding to play queen d3. So just unpin the queen, at least get the queen, one of the big pieces off that diagonal. Bishop takes c3 was played, and then king d1. And now bishop b5. What? One defender, two attackers. No, in this position, I mean, a move like knight e7, just developing the knight, you know, or even knight out to h6. I mean, either way, it's going to try and jump into f5. Knight e7 looks good to me. I think just something simple like that should be just easily winning for black. Black played bishop b5, just allowing the simple queen takes b5 check. And, you know, after queen takes, bishop takes, king moves, and then some trades. Guess what? It's equal. It's dead equal. There might even be a tactic here with interference. Bishop there with the idea of king there trapping the rook. So if pawn takes, king d2, goodbye rook. So yeah, bishop b5 just threw the game away for black, and white didn't take the free bishop. White played queen e3. Oh, this is a comedy of errors. That's a massive blunder followed by massive blunder. I don't understand that. Okay, let's move on. Queen e3, bishop takes d. Yeah, just trade the pieces off. It makes sense. Just trade off, trade, and steal a pawn. Yeah, I mean, I don't think stealing a pawn is the right way to play here. Alright. The problem is, even though black is a knight up, because the knight and rook aren't developed yet, black is effectively a rook down. So queen, rook, all developed and ready to go on the attack, and only queen and rook attacking. So temporarily, white is a rook up. So in a situation like this, I think black should just develop. And it's really cool because you get to play your knight to f5 with tempo, or c6 with tempo. Just developing just makes the most sense here. Stealing pawns, oh, no, not the best way to play. I mean, it threatens to take a rook and threatens to take the c pawn, so there is two threats there. which is, yeah, and no, I don't think white can sack that pawn. I'm just thinking king here, just charge the king out into the middle here and be ready to slide these rooks across and try and develop an attack of some sort. Maybe rook c1 is needed here. Just defend the pawn and, you know, maybe try and blast this pawn up to c4 at some point. Whoops. No, even that doesn't work because the b3 pawn's in danger. Get rid of that. What did white do? White played queen b2. Well, swapping the queens off is just basically resigning in this situation. The only hope white has is the fact that black's king is still in the center, and this queen roaming around the board can be an absolute pain to deal with, you know, especially if the queen can pull off somehow get in here and check the king and steal a pawn. If the king can get around in here, the queen can get around in here, it can do all sorts of damage to this exposed king. Alternatively, you can like slide up here and try and nip into this corner and take advantage of the fact that black hasn't developed his king side. Swapping queens, all those possibilities disappear. Just something like rook here, or maybe rook b2. Is that really bad? Yes, that is really bad. Yeah, because of the pin. I don't know actually. The move I'm looking at is here, check, king there, but I think that's answered by simply rook c2, which is very amusing. Such a funny little tactical position. The rook can't take because you lose the queen. Yeah, and you're going to lose this rook, and you have time to steal the queen because you're in check. Pretty funny stuff, actually. Rook b2 is bad. Rook c1 is the move. Just defend the pawn and then find some way. You know, f4, f5 maybe. Just f4, just charge this pawn straight down black's throat. Try and swap some pawns off, and then use your queen and rook to harass this king and maybe get a perpetual check of some sort. Queen b2 is just resigns. There's not really much left to look at. Black finally develops his king side. Rook a2, a6, rook a4. I don't think there's anything special going on for the rest of this game. I'm a bit surprised by rook e1. I think f4, defending the pawn, might be best. I don't know, I just want to get some counterplay, get this rook up, get this pawn up to here, and get some play going. But I guess you can't ever push this pawn with this knight sitting here, can you? So maybe this rook is going to be forced to go here anyway. Castles, c4. Trying to complicate the position up a little bit. f6. He takes, rook takes. Rook a3. And the pawn disappears. Why rook a3? Why not f3? Don't let that rook come down to the second rank like that. I mean, you've created the isolated e-pawn, so you know maybe a plan like rook here followed by rook there, doubling on the e-pawn and trying to steal this pawn. When you create an isolated pawn like this, you've got to form your plan around attacking that one weakness. There's no point attacking strengths, of course. Okay, so where are we? Rook a3. They just threw away the f2 pawn, and now, yeah, rook e6, but this trade was not good because this rook can just grab this pawn for free. Black threw in rook d8, king e1, rook takes g2. Now the h pawn is in danger, so white played h4. Black then played h6, probably just eliminating any chance of a back row mate. You know, a safety move. King f1, oh, that just lets black trade rooks off if he wants to with rook d1. And after rook in the way, oh, no, sorry. Oh, what am I thinking? The king just takes this rook. Never mind. Rook v2. Okay, now rook g3 was played. Now the swap off of rooks can be played. Rook here, and after rook in the way, rook takes rook, trading off a pair of rooks. Black didn't trade though. Black played b5. Just setting a really sneaky trap. Saying, oh no, I've blundered my knight. Please take my knight so you can get mated. White didn't take the knight straight away. White took this pawn first. Black just took it back, and then white went, ooh, free knight. And unfortunately, fell for the trap, mate. Yeah, sneaky stuff, black. Very sneaky. Well done, Kaustav. Yeah. In this situation, though, I probably wouldn't have risked it, setting a little trap like that, and I would have just forced the swap off of rooks myself. Just to make the win as safe as possible. The problem with setting little traps like b5 is that, you know, what if these rooks actually find a way to get into this position? You know, if a rook gets into here and takes this, you're in a lot of trouble. And you know, a move like king here, for instance, threatens to take the knight immediately, and you know the knight will have to move, and then you're allowing this rook to jump into here, and there might be some sort of potential check down here. Although I just looking at it right now, it actually looks absolutely terrible because of the knight fork. What about rook there? You know, with the idea that there's some counterplay on this pawn here. So that's what I'd be worried about by setting this little trap. Though your trap worked, your opponent fell for it. And well done. Okay, not much, you know, there wasn't too much in that game. A bit of theory on the French, which I think both players need to learn. And yeah, in particular, white playing c3 instead of knight c3 is the way to play the French, trying to keep a pawn on d4 the whole time. But yeah, the big shocker in this game was actually this move here, b3. And that's what really got white under extraordinary pressure, those weak dark squares. And then the shocker from black was this bishop b5 move, which just threw away all the advantage, which was luckily for black followed by a shocker from white, not taking the free bishop and playing queen e3. So just a few mistakes this game, and yeah, it's all over. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for listening. See you later.